Before you rush into the responsibilities of this day, pause for a moment and ask yourself one question. If you didn't have to face today alone, what if the stress, the uncertainty, the pressure you feel about the future didn't have the final say over your life? Psalm 23 reminds us of a powerful truth that the Lord is our shepherd, the one who provides what we need, restores our weary souls, guides our steps when we feel unsure, and protects us even when life takes us through difficult valleys. In this morning prayer, we are going to place this entire day into God's hands, trusting that the shepherd who watches over us will lead us with peace, purpose, and protection wherever we go. There is something powerful about the moment you wake up in the morning, before the noise of the world starts, before the phone begins to ring, before responsibilities begin to pull you in different directions. There is a quiet space where your heart can remember one simple truth: you are not walking through this day alone. The psalm begins with a declaration that shifts everything in our perspective. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That is not just poetry, that is a promise. It is a reminder that the God who created the universe has chosen to lead your life personally. A shepherd does not abandon the sheep to figure life out on their own. A shepherd guides, protects, feeds, and watches carefully over every step they take. And if God is truly our shepherd, then it means this day we are about to step into is already under his care. Sometimes we wake up carrying pressure. We think about the bills that need to be paid, the responsibilities waiting for us, the expectations we feel from others, and the uncertainty about what today might bring. But when we remember that God is our shepherd, it changes how we start the day. A sheep does not wake up worrying about where the grass will come from. The sheep trusts that the shepherd has already prepared what is needed. In the same way, God already knows the needs that will appear in your life today. Before you even open the door to step into the world, he has already gone ahead of you. The opportunities, the conversations, the protection, the provision, and even the strength you will need for the challenges ahead have already been seen by God. That is why this morning prayer is not just about asking God to give us something. It is about aligning our hearts with the truth that God has already committed himself to caring for us. When the psalm says, I shall not want, it does not mean life will never have challenges. It means that when God is leading your life, nothing essential will be missing. The shepherd knows what his sheep need to survive, but he also knows what they need to thrive. Sometimes we think provision only means money or material things, but God's provision is much deeper than that. His provision is peace when anxiety tries to take over your mind. His provision is wisdom when you face decisions you do not feel ready for. His provision is strength when your energy feels drained. His provision is courage when fear tries to speak louder than faith. And here is the beautiful part about a shepherd. The shepherd does not drive the sheep from behind. The shepherd walks ahead and leads them forward. That means God is not forcing you through life with pressure and fear. He is inviting you to follow his direction with trust. Every step you take today can be guided by the one who sees what you cannot see. There may be doors you are praying for that have not opened yet, and there may be paths that seem confusing right now, but the shepherd always knows where the green pastures are. Sometimes God leads us through places that look uncertain at first, but his direction is never random. Every step has purpose. So this morning, instead of starting the day with worry, we start it with surrender. We release the need to control everything. We release the pressure to figure everything out on our own. We release the fear that we might not have enough or be enough, because if the Lord is truly our shepherd, then our life is not dependent only on our own strength. It is sustained by his faithfulness. The same God who provided yesterday is the same God who will provide today. Think about that for a moment. The God who woke you up this morning did not do it by accident. If your eyes open today, it means your story is still being written. It means your purpose is still unfolding. It means God still has provision waiting in places you have not even reached yet. Sometimes the blessings of God are not always obvious in the beginning of the day. They unfold as you walk step by step in faith. A conversation can become a breakthrough. A challenge can become a testimony. A delay can become divine protection. When God is leading your life, nothing is wasted. So today we choose to trust the shepherd. We choose to believe that the path he leads us on will ultimately bring life, peace, and purpose. We place our worries, our plans, our families, our work, and every part of this day into his hands. We begin the morning not with fear, but with confidence that God is already providing everything we will need. Because when the Lord is our shepherd, we lack nothing. When a new day begins, most people step into it carrying more than they realize. Sometimes we carry the stress from yesterday, the disappointment from things that didn't work out, the words someone spoke that hurt us, or the pressure of responsibilities waiting ahead. It's amazing How quickly our minds can become crowded before the day even truly begins. But Psalm 23 gives us a picture that interrupts that cycle of exhaustion. It says that God makes us lie down in green pastures and leads us beside still waters, and then it declares something deeply personal: He restores my soul. That line is not just beautiful language, it is an invitation. It is a reminder that God cares about the condition of your inner life just as much as He cares about the direction of your outer life. The world often teaches us to keep moving, to keep pushing, to keep producing, as if our value depends on how much we can accomplish in a day. But God's leadership over our lives looks very different. A shepherd understands that sheep cannot survive if they are constantly stressed, constantly restless, constantly running. They need moments of calm. They need quiet places where they can breathe again. In the same way, God knows that our souls need restoration. He knows that the weight of life can slowly drain our joy, our peace, and even our hope if we try to carry everything alone. That is why the morning becomes such a powerful moment. Before the noise of the world becomes louder than the voice of God, there is an opportunity to let Him reset something inside of us. When we come to God in prayer at the beginning of the day, we are not just performing a routine, we are stepping into the green pastures of His presence. We are allowing Him to quiet the storms inside our minds. Anxiety has a way of convincing us that we need to solve everything immediately, but peace reminds us that God is already working even when we cannot see it. Restoration begins when we stop trying to control every outcome and start trusting that the one who leads us knows exactly what He is doing. There are people who wake up every morning already feeling overwhelmed because their mind immediately jumps to everything that could go wrong. But what if the first voice we listened to each morning was the voice of God instead of the voice of fear? What if instead of letting yesterday define our mindset, we allowed God to renew our perspective for today? Restoration does not mean pretending that life is perfect. It means allowing God to heal the places inside us that life has worn down. Sometimes restoration looks like God reminding you that your past mistakes do not disqualify your future. Sometimes restoration looks like Him lifting the heaviness of regret that has been sitting on your heart for too long. Sometimes restoration looks like clarity when confusion has been clouding your decisions, and sometimes restoration is simply the quiet assurance that even though life feels uncertain, God's presence has not moved an inch. Still waters are powerful imagery because water that is calm allows reflection. When our lives are constantly rushing from one moment to another, we rarely pause long enough to recognize how faithful God has already been. But when we slow down in His presence, we begin to remember. We remember the prayers He has already answered. We remember the doors He has already opened. We remember the moments when we thought we would not make it, yet somehow we are still standing. That memory strengthens our faith for whatever this day may bring. The truth is, a restored soul changes the way we walk through the world. When your soul is at peace, challenges do not shake you the same way. When your soul is renewed, you can face responsibilities without feeling crushed by them. When God restores your soul, He gives you something deeper than temporary motivation. He gives you spiritual strength that carries you through the entire day. And the beauty of this promise is that restoration is not something we earn. It is something God lovingly provides. The shepherd does not wait for the sheep to become perfect before leading them to green pastures. He leads them because they need it. In the same way, God meets us exactly where we are this morning. Whether you feel strong or weak, confident or uncertain, hopeful or tired, His invitation is the same. Come into His presence and let Him restore what life has drained. So as this day begins, take a moment to release the tension that has been building in your heart. Let go of the pressure to have every answer. Allow God to quiet the noise in your mind and refill your spirit with peace. Because when God restores your soul, you do not just survive the day ahead, you walk through it with a strength that only His presence can provide. One of the most comforting truths in Psalm 23 is the reminder that God leads us in the right paths for His name's sake. That means life was never meant to be a journey where we wander through confusion trying to figure everything out by ourselves. Yet if we're honest, many mornings begin with uncertainty. We wake up and immediately start thinking about the decisions waiting for us, conversations we need to have, responsibilities we need to handle, opportunities we don't want to miss, and sometimes the weight of those choices can make us feel like we are walking through the day without a clear map. But this is exactly where the promise of God's guidance becomes so powerful, because the same shepherd who provides for us and restores our souls is also the one who directs our steps. Think about what it means for God to lead. A shepherd doesn't just protect the sheep from danger. He also knows the terrain. He knows which paths lead to life and which ones lead to harm. He sees the cliffs before the sheep even get close to them. He understands where the grass is growing and where the land has become dry. The sheep may not understand every turn the shepherd makes, but they follow because they trust his vision. In the same way, God's guidance in our lives often requires trust before it makes sense. Sometimes He leads us in directions that feel unfamiliar. Sometimes He closes doors we thought were perfect for us. Sometimes He redirects our plans when we were convinced we knew exactly what we were doing, but the shepherd always leads with purpose. This is why starting the day with prayer is so important. When we pause in the morning and invite God into our decisions, we are acknowledging that His wisdom is greater than our own. We are saying, God, before I rush into my plans, I want your direction. Because without guidance, it is easy to drift. Life moves fast, and if we rely only on our instincts, we can end up chasing things that look promising but ultimately leave us empty. But when God leads our steps, our lives begin to align with something bigger than temporary success. Our choices begin to reflect purpose. Guidance from God doesn't always come with dramatic signs or loud announcements. Most of the time, it comes as a quiet conviction in your spirit. It shows up as a sense of peace about one decision and a lack of peace about another. It shows up in the wisdom of Scripture that begins to shape how you think and respond. It shows up in the way certain opportunities appear at just the right moment while others slowly fade away. God's direction is often subtle, but it is always intentional. There will be moments today when you have to choose how you respond to a situation. Maybe someone says something that could easily trigger frustration. Maybe you are presented with an opportunity that requires integrity. Maybe you face a challenge that demands patience. In those moments, guidance is not just about the big life decisions. It is about the daily steps. The shepherd is not only concerned with the destination, he cares about the path. And here is something powerful to remember. God leads us in the right paths not only for our benefit but for His name's sake. That means your life becomes a reflection of His character. When He guides your decisions, your actions begin to carry evidence of His wisdom, His love, and His truth. People may not always see God directly, but they see the way He shapes the life of someone who follows Him. Every step guided by Him becomes a testimony that His leadership is trustworthy. Sometimes we think we have to have the entire future figured out before we move forward, but God rarely reveals the entire road at once. Instead, He guides us one step at a time, just enough light for the next decision, just enough clarity for the next moment of obedience. That requires faith because we often want certainty before we move, but faith is trusting the shepherd even when the path curves in ways we didn't expect. So today, instead of walking through the day relying only on your own understanding, choose to walk with a listening heart. Let God guide your words, your reactions, your priorities, and your decisions. Ask Him to order your steps in ways that align with His purpose for your life, because when God is leading you, even the ordinary moments of the day can become part of something extraordinary. And when you trust His direction step by step, you begin to realize that every path He leads you on is ultimately bringing you exactly where you are meant to be. There is a moment in Psalm 23 where the tone shifts from peaceful pastures and still waters to something much more intense. It says that even though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we will fear no evil because God is with us. That line speaks to a reality every person eventually faces. Life is not always green pastures and calm waters. There are seasons when the path feels dark, uncertain, and even a little intimidating. There are days when challenges appear without warning, when situations unfold that we didn't plan for, and when the weight of life feels heavier than we expected. But what makes this promise so powerful is that it does not say we will never walk through valleys. It says that when we do, we will not walk through them alone. Fear is one of the loudest voices people hear when they step into a new day. Fear whispers that something might go wrong. Fear tells you that you are not prepared for what is coming. Fear tries to convince you that the challenges ahead are bigger than the strength inside you. But Psalm 23 reminds us that the presence of God changes the entire atmosphere of the valley. Notice that the valley is described as the shadow of death, not death itself. A shadow can look intimidating, but it cannot actually harm you. The shadow only exists because there is a light somewhere nearby, and when God is walking with you, His presence becomes that light. Think about how a shepherd protects the sheep. The shepherd carries a rod and a staff. The rod was used to defend against predators. The staff was used to guide and rescue sheep that wandered too close to danger. Both tools represented protection and direction. When the psalm says that God's rod and staff comfort us, it means that His protection is active. He is not distant or unaware of what His people face. He watches over every step, every moment, every situation that unfolds in our lives. That means as you step into this day, you are not stepping into uncertainty by yourself. There may be challenges waiting that you cannot see yet. There may be moments when things do not go exactly the way you planned, but the promise of God's presence means that nothing you encounter today will catch him by surprise. The shepherd is already aware of the terrain ahead. He knows where the dangers are. He knows how to guide you around them, through them, or even use them to strengthen your faith. Protection from God does not always mean that life will be completely free from difficulty. Sometimes protection means God gives you the strength to stand firm when pressure rises. Sometimes protection means he closes doors that would have led you into harm. Sometimes protection means he places the right people in your path at the right moment. And sometimes protection means that even when you face a challenge, it cannot destroy the purpose God has placed on your life. There are moments when we underestimate how much God is actively working behind the scenes of our lives. While we are focused on what we can see, God is handling things we never even realize. He is shielding us from dangers we never notice. He is redirecting situations that could have gone very differently. He is standing guard over our families, our homes, and our future. The protection of God is not passive. It is constant. This is why the psalm says we will fear no evil. That statement is not based on personal strength or confidence in our own abilities. It is based on the assurance that God is present. Fear loses its authority when faith recognizes who is walking beside us. When you truly believe that the shepherd is with you, the valley does not have the final word. The valley becomes just another place God leads you through. And the key word there is through. The valley is not the destination, it is a passage. Shepherds often lead sheep through valleys because valleys can lead to higher ground where better pastures exist. The path may feel uncomfortable while you are in it, but the shepherd knows where it leads. What looks like a difficult moment today could be part of the journey that brings you into something greater tomorrow. So as this morning begins, you can release the fear that tries to follow you into the day. You can walk with confidence knowing that God's presence surrounds you. His protection covers you. His guidance directs you. No challenge is greater than his authority, and no valley is deeper than his ability to lead you safely through it. Because when God walks with you, fear loses its power and faith becomes your strength.